Hearing that's happening right now on Capitol Hill as Undersecretary Patrick Kennedy testifies today. Congressman Trey Gowdy from South Carolina is our guest now. Tomorrow, the panel he sits on, the House Committee on Government and Oversight Reform, will hold hearings of its own on the matter. So we have the live pictures from the House Foreign Affairs Committee. We're going to get the live pictures from the House Oversight Committee tomorrow. Congressman, nice to have you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.
This will be your third hearing focused on Benghazi. What is the goal for tomorrow?
Is to test and probe the independence of the Accountability Review Board. I mean, keep in mind, the fact that you call something the Accountability Review Board doesn't mean that it's accountable or that they conducted much review. So we're going to have the two kind of co-chairmen of this Accountability Review Board, and I'm going to ask them which witnesses they talked to, and most importantly, which witnesses did you not talk to, because I don't think they interviewed Secretary Clinton, and if you don't attacks leading up to Benghazi. They didn't interview Susan Rice, so how in the world are we going to know what the origin of those false talking points was? And they didn't interview the commander-in-chief. So how in the world are we going to know tomorrow whether or not he called any of our allies in the region while the siege was going on and said, can you help us?
I'm glad that you mentioned Secretary Clinton. There's some questions today about whether lawmakers like yourself will call the former Secretary of State back to the Hill to testify. Will you do that, sir?
I would love to do that. Jenna, my pay grade is not high enough to get to make that decision, but I subpoenaed people for 16 years as a prosecutor. I would love to subpoena Secretary Clinton, Secretary Rice.
What is holding you back from doing that, besides your pay grade, which you point out, right? So what is the obstacle to getting those leaders back on the Hill and asking the questions that you want answered?
The next time you have one of the committee chairmen or a member of House leadership on your show, I would encourage you to ask that very question.
Are you asking them that?
Pardon? Oh, yes, ma'am. We're asking too. I mean, there is work being done aside from the committee work. There are depositions being taken, there are private interviews, and there is some merit to doing all the other preliminary investigations before you call your three central witnesses. I'm not disputing that as a tactic, but it's been a year. And just today, Patrick Kennedy is telling us what we should have known a year ago, that the security was inadequate at Benghazi. We didn't need an accountability review board to tell us that. I very much want to question Hillary Clinton under oath because I've never had the opportunity to do so. I'm happy to send my questions ahead of time. I'm not playing gotcha, but the reality is she's auditioning for the role as commander-in-chief, and she hasn't answered all the questions about Benghazi, her last job.
Based on what you've heard from Patrick Kennedy so far, do you think he should resign?
Well, he's probably not going to take employment advice from me. I didn't find him to be a very compelling witness when he came before oversight, but I've been in a classified judiciary briefing this morning, so I have not watched his testimony. I know this, he's a career diplomat, so he makes his living using a lot of words and saying nothing. And we'll find out tomorrow whether Admiral Mullen and Ambassador Pickering take that same approach, but I'm going to have very short, specific, precise questions. And Jen, I want you to keep this in mind. What did Hillary Clinton say about the Accountability Review Board? She said it would answer everything. And for those of us who may have missed the word everything the first time, she repeated it. So I want you to watch the hearing tomorrow. And at the conclusion of that hearing, you ask yourself, do you know everything about Benghazi? The president said the ARB would look at every element of Benghazi. So you ask yourself tomorrow, after a year, have we analyzed every element of Benghazi? The answer will be a resounding no.
Congressman, you're giving us a lot of homework to do. I'm going to have a lot of questions to answer you on
You may
tomorrow.
Not have time to do all that.
There are some big questions, and we appreciate you joining us and continue to talk about it. We will be watching tomorrow, so we'd love to have you back. And point well taken about Kennedy and his testimony today. There was some reports, conflicting reports about lawmakers asking for his resignation, so I just wanted to get on the record with you about that. Just a quick final question for you about a different matter. We heard from Congressman Boehner that he's going to put forward a resolution on the House floor on Friday that would fund the government until December 15th, but defund Obamacare. The Washington Post had a report today that said last night there were 40 conservatives that revolted against John Boehner and basically forced this to happen in this sort of way. Were you one of the 40?
Well, I'm not sure it happened, with all due respect to the Washington Post. I was actually celebrating Tim Scott's birthday last night. But yeah, there are a group of conservatives within the conference who would like to push a little harder. It is a wildly unpopular law. And if the president can turn off certain aspects of it, why can't we? I mean, that's a fair question, but I think this palace intrigue and coup d'etats that some would like to conjure probably didn't happen.
Are you prepared to shut down the government over Obamacare?
I hope not, and I hope you ask the president that question the next time you go to a White House debriefing, because we're only talking about 14% of Obamacare. Is he willing to shut down government so he can continue to fund something that is wildly unpopular and not working? That is the question I would ask him. I'm
going to give you the job of our booking producer, because you've asked me to book the House leadership. I got to book the president now to talk to him about all this stuff. Congressman, it's nice to have you on the program. We'll work on that, and we look forward to having you back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kind of work cut out.